Rise and shine, everybody. Yes, indeed, it's 29 degrees centigrade here in Abuja. Humidity is 67%. Not that windy, but at least you can still make do with it. It's just 8 kilometers per hour wind speed this morning here in Abuja. So temperature is pretty good. Not a lot of traffic, so you can plan 2-3 meetings if you like to move around. So that's the scenario we're seeing at the moment right there in Abuja.
Indeed, good morning and welcome to the program. Sights and sounds of Kuje coming to you from our studios right here. And just in case you don't know, Kuje is one of the area councils right here in the Federal Capital Territory. It's one of the 6 area councils making up the Federal Capital Territory. A suburb where you have a lot of farms. Yes, some of them recreational, some of them relaxing, and some of them strictly for food. Well, even if they're recreational, they still give you food, believe it or not. But yes, if you're ever visiting the Federal Capital Territory and you want to see another place apart from the city center, Kuje is certainly a place that you should visit. It also houses the prison, so be mindful what it is that you do. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maukwe Ogunyosef. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, I'm Chamberlain. I'm so glad you could join us. So let's go ahead and take you through some of what to expect today. So not all hunky-dory for all people. Education, for instance. So there's this group of people. They actually are members of the federal or staff of the Federal Ministry of Education who were posted to unity schools across the country. They've written to Ministry of Education, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Federal Civil Service Commission, Budget and Planning. They are asking the question about the non-payment of 3 years' salary arrears and the first 28 days for them. So they're saying, look, this is clearly affecting them. And by the way, they say that it is the entire 2018-2019 set of officers who are posted to federal unity schools from the Ministry of Education. So is this the kind of premium we're giving to education? Unity schools are run down anyways, and so this is more or less like adding salt to injury. So the government needs to explain to them, and perhaps to the country, why is this the case, they ask.
I do believe that teachers need to, find their voices and speak up loudly so that, their voices can be amplified. This is totally unacceptable. In this current situation, teachers are old.
Yeah.
It's a big question. I mean,
unfortunately,
the Ministry of Education really needs to be on top of things. They really do need to be on top of things. Well, I know that at 10 o'clock on our business segment, we will be looking at inflation and what is happening with that. Nigerian consumers groan as inflation hits 30-year high. Now, you will say it much later on all of the other dailies, just what exactly is happening with inflation. That is the lead story today. I hate to give it away, but it's right there. You cannot ignore it. How is it that inflation is defying a stronger naira? It's unclear to many people. Kimberly?
So who is doing what about this? Clearly, some people are there to do certain things. So ministers, all eyes are on you now. So they better have that conversation among themselves. I understand they'll be doing that today at some point. So they should have some frank talk because the results are out there for anyone who's anyone, and they're just watching to see what kind of impact are the ministers having. So we'll look at where they've been posted. In fact, maybe some of you might even write to us, but we'll have some measure, a way that, just get feelers from all of you out there, what you think about performance of these ministers who are out there. All right, so that said, let's go right ahead and take you through some of the dailies right now. All right, let's take a look at some of the dailies here this morning. We'll start with the Guardian newspaper. Households groan over food prices as inflation defies intervention. This is the big lead on the front page of the Guardian newspaper here today. And, well, yes, it's on an economic note. And the Vanguard equally toes the same line about focusing on the economy. More pressures on pockets as food inflation rises to 40%. Now, that is something that will definitely be out there. Well, look at the writers. High electricity tariff to drive further rise, ascribed to analysts. It's bad for business, Nasima. Small businesses to lose capital base, Asbon. Well, this is something that, well, definitely the handlers of the economy have got to find a way. Look at Business Day. Stronger Naira fails to put food on tables, as though they're all unanimous on this in terms of the impact of the economy here this morning. They look at some of the dailies. And then if you go ahead and take a look at the Nigerian News Direct, Nigerians' economy will be liberated, ascribed to Tinubu. Says, no more payment of ransom to kidnappers. As economic policies beginning to yield positive results, we must root out the scourge of kidnapping. So all of that focusing on the economy, with the president giving that line there. But Daily Independent comes with a different twist. Defend Tinubu or quit. Matawale tells northern appointees. So I guess it's reading the riot act right there for all of them who perhaps might be there doing a thing or two. So, well, that may be his perspective, but that's not all there is to that particular angle. Blueprint also has a perspective on that. Matawale to northern appointees, defend Tinubu administration against vicious attacks or quit. So that appears to be point blank for all of them there. So I guess in the days ahead, we'll see what transpires or how that eventually plays out. Have a look at this Nigeria. Drama over Ganduje as Kano APC war suspends him. SWC nullifies action. And then ex-Kano governor, wife, others to appear in court tomorrow over bribery allegation. So I guess, okay. Well, yes, New Telegraph also on that same trajectory. Ganduje's purported suspension, speaking politically, we were impersonated. 27 ward chairs say as Kano APC counters, sacks them all. So what does this do to the entire scenario now? Well, just hold on a bit. Have a look at leadership. Plot to remove Ganduje Damagum thickens. North Central intensifies lobby for chairman position in APC PDP. And then the other one said drama in Kano over Ganduje suspension. Wike camp splits ahead of PDP NEC. State chairman vow to resist any move outside party's constitution. So you also see that one as it just keeps going over and over. Tribune here, APC, controversy in Kano over Ganduje's suspension. Ward Exco, state chapter, encounter moves as ward leaders disown suspension. So that you can see right there on the front page. Daily Trust, ex-governor, 21 other senators sponsored no bill in 10 months. They should wake up, ascribed to analysts. So I know the big question is, so what are they doing there? They're just receiving the entitlements and doing nothing about it? Your guess may be as good as maybe anybody else's in this case. The Daily Times, FG now paying more money on petrol subsidy than before. And guess from who? El Rufai. Asks president to drop appointees who fail to deliver. So is this the first of many responses we're going to see here? How FG rescued over 1,000 abductees without ransom. This is ascribed to the NSA. That is his perspective on that subject matter concerning that one right there on the front page. So we're seeing quite a number of stories highlighting all of this. But have a look at New Telegraph. Ganduje's purported suspension. We were impersonated. 27 ward chairs say as Kano APC counters, sacks them all. And then beneath this one here, I guess it might make interesting reading. Shetima, Nyako, Gaidam thwarted Chibok girls' rescue, Clark alleges. So you might wonder, which... Okay, well, look at the writers, it just shed some light for you. Says, mass abduction, politically motivated. Who would have thought they play politics with lives? Over 1,700 children abducted in 10 years. Amnesty International report records 17 school mass abductions in 6 years. Say 20 released Chibok girls forced to marry ex-Boko Haram fighters. So that is a New Telegraph this morning. Just beside that, Nigeria plunged into darkness as national grid collapses again. So quite a handful with some of the dailies here this morning. So have your pick. What is it that you've had up to here? We want to hear from you about all of that, but I know that many will be or are affected, and of course will be tomorrow with the power situation. I know the ministers, I think the head of service will have some sort of conversation with them about ministerial performance. Yes, they launched a platform to assess it, but for the Minister of Power, I think you know how you'll be assessed already. Because no matter what you do, if people do not have power supply, you can almost guess what their feedback of that ministry is already or will be when the time comes. So the front page of Guardian, like several other papers, where you see National Grid suffers third collapse, worsens 20 hours power targets. And then you see another paper, which is probably Vanguard, talking about it collapsing for the fourth time. And so it adds to the groans you see on the front page there over food prices as inflation defies intervention. So perhaps defies being the oppressive word. You need to find out what kind of interventions are there in the first place. What is the current circumstance? No, let's have that Guardian again. And so if you look at that power sector area where it collapses, worsening 20 hours power target. So all of this question about, is it band A, B, C, D, or E, or what relevance is it? Because if they hike this tariff and you can't provide service, what excuse would they give to those who have vended in that same hiked tariff and then not commensurate with supply? And look at that, they say what, at about midnight, it collapsed. And so we're just barely scratching the surface now in terms of what is available. I think about 64 megawatts from 2,000 plus. So what can that even do to anything?
Well, Chimling, you know, just spare thoughts for those on the other bands, because I tell you that as soon as electricity is provided, as soon as electricity is restored to the grid, priority will certainly be those on band A, who will constitute 15% of those, of total electricity users in the country. So you can imagine what's going to happen. Yeah, what's going to happen to band B, band C, band D.
No, they do get some, but look, it's not even as if the so-called band A are getting any better.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's totally, it's really, really, really disheartening. As you said, you know, the way the power minister and ministry will be assessed will be very straightforward. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. You know, how much electricity can Nigerians say they've experienced or felt in their lives? But I want to focus on the Vanguard this morning. And in some ways, I dare say that this cost of living crisis, it's a good thing that is happening, because it would seem that the media is beginning to learn to focus on, at the end of the day, what really matters. I mean, after all of this politics has been played, what really matters is the welfare of citizens. And it's been so good to see that for the past weeks, I dare say months, there's been a huge focus on this cost of living crisis. Take a look at the front page of the Vanguard now, and they're also focusing on inflation. More pressures on pockets as food inflation rises to 40%. As you highlighted, it's very closely related to The Guardian, which is also closely related to two other stories. Federal government still subsidizing petrol in trillions of naira, and why electricity power system collapsed 4th time in 2024. Now, when you have all of these, shall I say, failures or problems, it boils down to one thing: the pockets of Nigerian consumers. Because right now, people are buying petrol at what price? It depends on where you live. 680 naira, in some cases, 620 naira. It depends if you're able to queue at an NNPC filling station. In some places, NNPC filling stations are not selling, and I'll tell you why. There is no electricity for them to sell. They say they cannot use, diesel that is being sold at 1,100 and something.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
Yeah, they sell the diesel to us, but they cannot
use that diesel to sell petrol.
You see life?
It's ridiculous. And at the end of the day, imagine passing by an NNPC station.
Boy.
They're not selling. Who is suffering the inconvenience of driving further to look for another station to buy from? Right now, there is scarcity in the Federal Capital Territory. So you can just imagine all of these problems making life a little more difficult for the average Nigerian citizen. I'm not here to sing tales of woes. I'm here to, paint the picture as it really is, and why it is that government efforts need to be more coordinated. This morning, the fact that a lot of the papers are harping on the fact that inflation is still defying the interventions, is still defying a stronger naira, I think that there needs to be like an emergency economic meeting to ask what exactly is the problem. Why is it that as our naira is gaining, people are not feeling the effects in their pockets? Because ideally, a stronger naira should mean that you can buy more with what it is that you earn, especially if you're earning in naira. But that is not the situation. So big questions need to be asked. Even though I can already guess an answer, they will tell you that, the inflation figures are not for now. It is maybe in the next quarter or the next month that you might be able to see the effect. These are
does that mean am I not going to the market to buy at increased rate?
These are figures for things that have already been measured before the naira began to gain.
So we didn't suffer before, and we're not still experiencing
as I said,
it now.
I'm hazarding an answer. I can tell you.
It's very hazardous out there right now.
I've been on this job long enough to tell you the kind of answers that we can expect. But it certainly says that the welfare of the average Nigerian needs to be paramount on the minds of our leaders, be they in the federal government, be they at the state level, and where it exists, be they at the local level.
So the moral of the story is this. When you go out there to vote, if you like, vote them because they come from your local government area. You go and eat that potential. It's because everybody will go to the same market to face it. So if you don't put people who are capable, if you don't look at the track record and say, look, who can deliver us from this quagmire that we're in? If that is not your chief consideration, I wish you all the best. All right, we're back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Cube is available in beef, chicken, jollof, and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 100, 200, 500 naira, along with Saver and Super Saver packs.
Terra Cube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
Senior executives face local macroeconomic turbulence and global geopolitical upheavals. Don't worry, Texam UK got your back. A transformative journey with Texam Strategies for Sustainable Organizational Success Program, April 24 to 25, 2024, in Lagos will position you and your organization for these challenges. Our interactive sessions, games, assessment, and peer-to-peer learning are unique with a great faculty led by John Peters, former chair, Association of MBAs and ex-prisoner of war, delivering actionable insights for you to navigate uncertainties and thrive. Pay 3,155,250 naira by March 15th for your spot and enrich your leadership skills in resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth. Apply now via +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. It's a strategic opportunity to win. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
Today, on the 15th of April 2024, we, the leaders of the APC in Ganduja Ward, Dawakintupa local government, engaged in thorough deliberation and subsequently decided to suspend the erstwhile governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, in light of the allegation of bribery involving foreign currency. It has come to our attention that Ganduje has been summoned to court to answer for these accusations, a development that we believe could potentially besmirch the reputation of our esteemed political party. This resolution was reached collectively on behalf of all executive members of the APC in Ganduja Ward, Dawakintupa local government, Kano State.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, we'll be taking a look at some of those issues raised. First, there's a court matter with the former governor, who is the chairman of the APC, and then a group said he's been suspended, then another counter statement saying, no, perish that thought. So all of that is just happening so quick and fast. And so I've got two gentlemen joining us here today to weigh in on this matter. My extreme right, Dr. David Ogbole, Executive Director, Citizens Watch Africa. And sitting right beside him is Muhuyi Magaji, who is the Chairman, Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission for Kano State. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, Mr. Gwele, let me start with you now. Your impression of what this is all about. What's going on?
Okay, I'd like to say that a healthy democracy stands on a tripod of political actors, umpire institutions, and the office of the citizens. And in the office of the citizen, we are out to ensure that there is healthy political parties that can contribute to economic and social development of any nation, as far as the governance space is concerned, either as the ruling party or as major or minor oppositions. And a worrisome development or trend in recent times in Nigeria is the turnover and crisis within political parties, especially the headship. You see that play in the Oshomole time. You see that play also in PDP, Yochiayu. You see that playing also in Labour Party. And currently, it is back in APC. So our concern basically is that this is not healthy for the growth of democracy in Nigeria. The issue in question, the issue in question is the suspension of the APC national chairman, Umar Ganduje, by his Ganduje ward of Dawakintofa local government in Kano State, by his ward ESCO, and then the thwarting of that same suspension by the state working committee of the party in Kano State. Basically, it does not present a very good picture of the party that is ruling in Nigeria right now. We believe that this is an opportunity for APC to be able to rally in their house and ensure that no sabotage and no political banditry or robbery affects their chances of being stable to be able to deliver governance values to Nigerians, which is their responsibility as far as the ruling party is concerned right now. So for me, my basic impression is that it is a worrisome development that needs to be quickly arrested.
Well, mine is not about a suspension or what is happening in politics. I think I'm here to discuss the issue of what the Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission did, and perhaps the investigation that led to institution of court case, which we are now pursuing before the court of law. And incidentally, you can see His Excellency, the former governor, was the one that appointed me in 2015 to head that agency. And I was reappointed in 2020 for another 5-year term. So basically, we have an institution in Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission that is devoid of political activities, and that is they are dedicated to fight corruption, check maladministration, and fight injustice in Kano. It's a conglomeration of three, different activities. That is protection of human rights, receiving public complaints and mediation, then at the same time fighting corruption.
Even though that group that said they suspended him also cited this, saying he needs to go clear himself with some of these corruption cases. But your journey has not exactly also been smooth. You've had some bumps with the CCT matter. But he himself, former governor too, has said he was quoted to have said, look, it's for that kind of scenario, if it's a crime, it's a federal that can try him or could prosecute him and not the state. Is that right?
Chambali, it might interest you to know that before His Excellency, the former governor, sued the commission to the court to obtain a restraining order, which incidentally the court in its wisdom decided to say that, yes, the commission had the power to investigate him or any other person, because prior to that, we were given a restraining order against him, his family, and all other appointees that was appointed by him. And it took about 6 to 7 months before we were able to quash that order. So now, the court in its wisdom, at the end of the day, they acknowledge the fact that the commission have the power to investigate corruption, maladministration, or any other act of corruption that is created by the state law. But we cannot investigate what is federal offense like money laundering. And what we did was, we did not investigate a federal offense. We charge, it's about 8 count charges. So the 8 count charges is all bordering on allegation of corruption that has to do with the state law. And it might interest you to know that before he sued us, he was able to, in our own finding, use state resources, 240 million naira to sue the EFCC, same EFCC that he was, perhaps they come saying that they are...
You verified that it was state resources?
Yes, we verified. In fact, it will not even go unpunished, because what is happening now is a tip of the iceberg. As I'm talking to you, we are investigating a case whereby 51.3 billion naira local government funds were directly taken from the government coffers, sent to other individuals, and we trust it to people. So we are, and this is not only the case that we have filed. We have filed a series of cases. And anybody that wanted to carry his cross, because we have the case whereby 1 billion naira in April last year was removed from government coffers under the pressures of renovating 30 roads in the metropolis, and it was taken away. Thanks to Bureau de Change. We have a case whereby 430 million, all these cases are before the court. We have a case of 4 billion naira, whereby it was sent from consolidated revenue account of Kano State to an agricultural company. And back to what you said, that yes, yes, that is the beauty of what we are doing. In Nigeria, we're not supposed to have scapegoats. We're not supposed to have those that will be shielded. Even we are in the anti-corruption committee, we are facing the test, and our integrity has been tested. That is what it's supposed to be. Anybody that is charged before the court of law, let him go and answer. We have a robust, judicial system and if you want to know that what the judiciary did in this country, go to our law report. You see that we have a judicial system. If the court, you are not satisfied with what the court did, then we go upstairs.
Very interesting perspective that the fact that we're still going to be exploring the cases that you have against him and, when your investigation started. But let me come to you, sir. A very interesting perspective you brought to the discussion with regards to, what happens within political parties and what they mean, the consequences for a stable democracy. Some people can say, well, yes, indeed. When you look at what has happened within other political parties, for instance, this same APC, PDP too has also gone through the same thing with its chairman, Mr. Secondos. You've also had that with the Labour Party, which is something that they really yet to put to rest. But we saw attempts to remove the Labour Party chairman even from his own ward in Edo State. So it does appear that almost all the major political parties have experienced this sort of scenario. But in this case, in this extant case, when Mr. Ganduje was being made the chairman of the APC, some saw it as a slippery slope because these charges that are now being preferred against him, were already existing. He had quite a controversial run with this, charges or these allegations of bribery, which eventually made it to the court. So in your opinion, do you think that the APC already set itself up for this sort of scenario, given the antecedents or the allegations that was already, preferred against their own chairman?
You see, when it comes to matters of allegations are normal issues or occurrences as far as human existence and coexistence is concerned. And every human being nobody is a saint, and every human being has one or two things that if you will dig long enough, you'll be able to find about one individual or the other. But when it comes to political offices and the judgment of the party to appoint a person into their highest office, especially the office of the national chairman, it's important to trust the judgment of the party. I want to strongly believe that in the case of the PDP, Yochayu, in the case of APC, Umar Ganduje, perhaps they have done their due diligence and they felt that those issues are not enough to be able to interfere or stop him from delivering his duties as national chairman. Therefore, they went on to appoint them. As to the matters of allegation, of course, once you are at the top, you are always the topic. And it is when you come up to strategic political positions or social positions that you see people begin to come out at you with one allegation or the other, some of which perhaps you are guilty of, from which perhaps are just trumped up issues, because to be the man, you have to hit at the man. So those are issues that are on the ground. But like I said earlier, let's trust the judgment of the party, in appointing him as their national chairman, and also see to it that we wait out for the judicial proceedings or processes to either acquit them or to hold them guilty of all of the offenses that they have been alleged to, have committed.
When you say the judgment of the party, I mean, it wasn't like as if a convention was organized to, pick him as chairman. This happened, within a space of political convenience, some will say. If that is the situation, can you really say that, the judgment of the party should be trusted on this one, or the judgment of a few individuals who just thought it was politically expedient to have him at that time?
When you talk about power, power is usually bequeathed to a few by the majority to hold on, trust, and use for the benefit of the majority. So when it comes to the matter of who should assume or take the position of the erstwhile APC national chairman, that's the former governor of Nasarawa State, the exigency of situation at that time warranted that a few individuals trusted with power within the party take that decision for the benefit of the generality of the members of the party. So I think that's what happened in that circumstance or situation. And let's wait till their national convention, which is upcoming, happens, so that a substantive or another leadership can be elected by the party. But for now, I think in the interest of convenience or political convenience, few had to take that decision in the interest of the majority.
Well, because there are two different scenarios. I think on Wednesdays, when the Kano State government says they're going to be prosecuted.
That's tomorrow.
Yes, it's tomorrow. And this purported expulsion, or is it suspension, within the political party has just happened. Do you think that individuals who have pending cases against them should be made chairman of political parties?
When you talk about that, the scenario in Kano State right now, we are faulting it on two grounds. Number one, the constitutional procedures as laid down in the APC Constitution, which we, as Citizens Watch, had the opportunity to go through. And then number two, allegations of external interference and orchestration by the NNPP-led administration of Kano State right now.
You have it on good authority?
We have our facts on ground as to meetings that were held by the few members of the Ganduje, Ward ESCO of the party, that they met with the state government officials, and then they received large sum of money as bribe to be able to orchestrate that a suspension.
Who received bribe? The
few members of the Ganduje Ward ESCOs of APC. It was on that ground that the State Working Committee now had to thwart and to nullify that particular suspension.
Was that reported?
Yes, it is reported, and we have letters.
No, I mean to the authorities. I mean, the anti-corruption agencies. So are they aware of this allegation you mentioned?
He can own up to that situation or not.
No. Did you report? Did anybody, since you were made aware, did you forward the case to agencies like this or the police or anybody?
Like we say, I have a letter right now to that effect, and preparations are being made to be able to charge all of these people that are found culpable, you know, to come to the appropriate authorities.
Is your agency aware of this?
We are not entirely aware.
Okay.
And what I'm saying...
Okay, this is the information on the note to you now. You go and do your findings.
You know, we are trying as much as we can to stay away from dirty or muddy water or politics. What we are doing, we are trying to be professionals because we are dealing with matters that has to do with legal issues. And in governance...
No, bribery is bribery.
Yes, what I'm saying is, if anybody reported the matter, we are trying as much as we can to see that we investigated the matter. Like all these cases that were taken to court. Most of these cases happened during the time when the former governor was the governor. I was the chairman of the agency. We started investigating the allegation that he was taking us to court to stop the commission from investigating when he was the governor. And I made statement over the media that we are investigating the matter. As at that time, because perhaps of the immunity, he did not stop us. But after the immunity, then that's what happened. So what we are doing in the commission, at least as subnational, I think at least we can beat our chest to say that we are trying as much as we can to be professional and to do our work without fear or favor.
That's an interesting fact. Yeah. You're saying that you started investigating the governor while he was sitting?
Yes, obviously. Even this issue, it was reported. Even this issue, the issue that we have taken to the court, like the issue whereby a company that was owned by the state government, that is a Kano Court Engineering, the company was billions of naira. It was sold to a company whereby the company, based on investigation, we were able to find out that it belonged to his family.
And you found all of this before he left office?
Yes, we found it before he left office. And
did you confront him with the information?
Personally, I did. I know you may not be unaware of the fact that I was suspended for 2 years. I was asked to leave the office so that they will investigate it.
The CCT case?
The CCT case just happened recently. It happened recently. And what we are saying is, even the CCT, I don't want here to apportion blame on anybody, but what we are saying, it is important that we that are doing this job to pass the music. If we are fined wanting, like what the CCT said, they calculated the account, that is what entered into my account, that they said it is not commensurate to my income. For 8 years, 290 million naira. What I'm saying is I was offered bribe of that same magnitude in one case. I have a case of 4 billion naira in a court now.
Who offered you bribe?
What I'm saying, a lot of issues, a lot of things. What I'm saying is those that are familiar with kind of politics know it. I have it in authority. Here, I have a voice note in my phone whereby somebody was, even in the recent case which we talked, we are trying to recover 220 million naira for Kano people. Somebody was sent somebody, a third party, to at least to intimidate us with money that he's trying to bargain with $30,000. I report all this to the governor. So what I'm saying is, we are investigating this matter right before he left the office, and he know, and it was reported that plot to remove Kano anti-corruption chair taken because he was investigating Ganduja's family.
Was the person that offered you bribe a government official?
I'm saying it's in different cases. In different cases, it's not in this case.
No, you said you reported to him. You said you reported to him that somebody offered you bribe, or you made him aware of it.
You see, I reported to the governor because my office is attached to the office of the governor. During his time, I remember vividly when he comes to the office to commission the new edifice of the office, he invited the current president to come and commission the office. He commissioned the office and he made it clear to all of the people there that the commission shall go after anybody that is found wanting in corrupt practices.
Yeah, so I'm asking.
And what we are saying is, I had it in authorities, including some pictures that I snapped, including some, because initially what they are doing is they will find somebody that you are very close to. They will reach out to that person will reach out to you, enticing you with bribe.
Yeah,
and they know it.
I heard that. So I'm asking, is the person, was he a government official at the time?
Somebody who is a government official in government. Somebody who was in the government official.
So when you report to the government, what did they say?
They didn't say anything. And perhaps such kind of things even brought trouble to me. Because, you know, in some quarters, I was found to be a stubborn person.
So, because the press statement that he issued said they saw the charge sheet on the 3rd of April. What they listed there was $413,000 and 1.38 billion respectively. So, these other cases, are you saying that, are these the cases he's being charged for? Because he clearly states there that he's already told the government, he's already out there, that for these particular cases, the state government has no power on this. So, are you sure that these are the only cases, or are there more cases?
No, you see, I know he has to join issues with anybody. I think the best place to go and combat this is the court. If he believes that the state government doesn't have the power to charge.
So are you charging him based on this too?
We are charging him based on this, because I don't know why he would say the state government doesn't have the power. Look at Section 22 of the Council's Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission. It's clear. And we charge based on the state laws. We quote the laws. And we quote the circumstances based on factual evidence, documents from banks, financial institutions. Like, for instance, whereby you have a situation whereby you sold a company belonging to the state, to your own company. We established this. And without even remitting what you said, under your hand, and you think the state government cannot charge this. I don't think this can hold water, with all due respect. I have the legal background as well, and I know this, all we are doing, we do a meticulous job, and it's not even easy to file a charge. We have 8 count charges, and we have other charges that we believe it's linked to him. But what we see is anybody that wants to carry cross, we are not desperate to charge the former governor, no. We are only desperate to make sure that we clean the society. We are only desperate to know that what is happening in terms of corrupt practices at subnational, at local government level, did not contribute in the decay of this nation.
Yeah, but in terms of due process, would you say, because if there is already he went to court to challenge your jurisdiction to try him on a particular matter, have you seen the judgment and are you appealing? Because you have to follow due process, don't you?
We have followed due process. We did not charge it. Look, I have gone through the judgment. You said, have I seen the judgment? The judgment was given against us. So, and it was not completely against us. The judge acknowledged the powers of the court, and that was why he quashed the order that stopped the commission from investigating those of his family and that of his associate and all appointees. And what the judge says, yes, the commission have powers to investigate any other matter like this issue, because all what he's saying, the issue that was taken to court is the issue of dollar bribery issue. Go through the charge, go through the head count. We did not make mention of that. We were clever enough in framing our charge to make sure that we did not fall to that trap. What we did was to make sure that the issue of bribery, which the court acknowledges, it acknowledged the fact that we have the powers to do it. And that's what we did. And the other issues, like the other 3 count charges, there's a charge whereby you give your son 51 plots of individual which you hold in trust for the good people of Kano and all Nigerians. This was a land use access. Now we give it direct allocation to a company, a corporate vehicle as we call it. Now, the corporate vehicle sold this and give to your son the sum of 700 million naira, sent to Bureau de Change, sent to Dela, take it to your son. No, we have to do something on that. This is why this commission was created. It was created sui generis to make sure that it prevents this kind of activities in the state.
So certainly your own concerns right now, yes, I'm just trying to, because there are 2 different issues. There's the issue of trying to remove the current APC chairman from, through political means. That does appear a political matter. These other matters are corruption and allegations and seem to want to hold him account, which is another, excuse me, critical tripod of democracy: accountability, fighting corruption, making sure that the systems are in place and institutions do their jobs. This is the kind of thing that you certainly will want to promote as well. Isn't that correct?
That's true.
So do you have any objections to what it is that the anti-corruption body is doing in Kano State?
Of course, I do not have an objection to it. My concern is the procedures, like I said earlier. There are laid down constitutional provisions for the suspension of a leader, especially a national working committee leader. And there are also other allegations like I pointed out earlier. So if you will do anything, follow your constitution of the party. And if the laid down constitution says, if there is any report brought against a leader within the party, the first port of call is the disciplinary committee. And the disciplinary committee will now forward their recommendation to either the local government, depending on the strata in which the complaint, emerged from. And then within 7 days, they are supposed to now look at it and see that whatever is the relevant, inference or judgment or conclusion they will give on that matter is given. And every conclusion they give is subject to the review of the higher body, from local to the state, and from the state then to the national. But in this case now, where there are allegations of impersonation of members of the ward, there are also allegations of external influences from NNPP, the ruling party in the state now. We are simply saying that suspension, yes, those are internal party disciplinary mechanisms. They are all in order. They should be allowed to take their own course within a party. But the integrity of the process is very, very important.
So that advice now is for the people in the party. It's for political party members of the APC who are trying to remove the national chairman. But for the external body, like this, the anti-corruption body, it has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on the political party and its internal workings.
No.
Do you have a problem with their processes?
You see, the allegation that the ward executives that suspended Ganduje gave was that he is facing bribery charges, and that is a dent on their party. So they found it necessary to have him suspended before he faces all of those matters. It sounds very, very...
They have a point, don't they?
Yeah, they have a point. But the procedure, like I said, what should be done? When you sit in a Fiat... and
What's wrong with the procedure?
Beautiful. Like I said, when a group of people sit together, they are supposed to forward their recommendations up after the disciplinary committee has sat. And the procedure is that the disciplinary committee will invite the person in question and give him the right of fair hearing. The principle of audi alteram partem. You don't pass a judgment on a person without hearing him. In this case, there was no time that he was invited to be able to answer on matters of this or matters of that is, creating a dent on their party. So they just start unilaterally, without recourse to constitutional procedures, and then they made that. That is the ground on which the State Working Committee is standing now, and saying that those people impersonated and those people breached constitutional procedure. Therefore, that suspension is not standing. That is the issue that we are talking about.
Do you factor in, because this case, this is not the first time we're hearing about these cases, and he's gone down memory lane as to what transpired while he was governor at the time. As a citizens group, or Citizens Watch, do you factor in the impression that people have about this matter when you try to make a case or say, look, you have to go through certain procedures? Because there's those who say, procedure or not, yes, but it doesn't invalidate the issues out there about corruption cases of what they saw or what they perceived happened at the time. Because some think trying to make a point to go through certain procedures is a way of trying to quash the entire allegations or investigations.
Not quite. Not quite. Procedures are necessary, not to quash, but to be able to set the record straight and to ensure things are done the way they are supposed to be done. These are matters of justice, internal justice. So the aim is not to narrow it to the point of, that the aim is to quash. No. That is not the matter at all.
But some people argue that ideally, given the reason that these people have cited, that it really, and you have agreed that they have a point, that, it will be improper, that if it's going to be facing trial tomorrow in Kano State, it will be improper for him to be going as national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. Ideally, shouldn't he have honorably resigned?
That is left to him to decide whether he should honorably resign or not. I am not in a position to ask him to honorably resign.
Yes, as somebody who is looking at, democracy and what it means and all of that, isn't that something that, should be advocated?
Yeah, if he finds it necessary to resign.
You don't think
to be
it's
able
necessary?
to provide a level playing field for him to be investigated or even prosecuted, that's his own decision to make.
So, does Citizens Watch why didn't Citizens Watch do the same for the PDP and Labour Party?
Yeah, we made our statements in all of those cases. Even the NNPP, leadership imbroglio presently. You're aware that presently NNPP, there was a parallel convention the other time, and one of the factions now, they have invited Abbas Yusuf to answer as to why he took sides with one of the conventions. They had a parallel convention. Leaders emerged here, leaders emerged here. All of those matters, like I said earlier, are threatening the strength of political parties and their ability to
In order for this trend not to be threatened.
So we made our statements.
Yeah, I hear you. In order for these issues not to even be so muddied up like that, would you recommend in the days ahead that if people have this kind of allegations against them, they shouldn't be seen at least continuing in office? There should be room for unfettered investigation wherein either something happens, whether they step down or something, to allow proper investigation, which could be done in good time, so that whether they're guilty or not, they come back.
Yeah, you see, those are precedences that happened in other climes.
Your recommendation, what would it be?
Basically, my recommendation is that when people enter into offices, those people actually, they are custodians of public values. And the principle of integrity, principle of track record, should be able to judge, first of all, the training up of people who will be able to enter into offices. Because character, competence, capacity, those are issues that
So when they face allegations, what will your recommendations be?
When they face allegations, depending on the nature of the allegations, the presumption of innocence, until found guilty, can be able to hold in those matters. But in this case now, like I said earlier, let the course of justice be followed.
So what's your recommendation?
That what?
What is your recommendation to handle these kind of cases moving forward? If people are accused while they're in office, what would you recommend be done, either to them or they do?
Let the law take its course, and then on their own honor, we can leave it to them to either,
we
step
leave
aside.
it to them?
Yes.
But we know in this country, people it's very tough. Even if they catch you red-handed, they deny.
Those are matters of personal principles that you don't impose on people.
So you still recommend we leave it to them?
Yes. But the recommendation would be to honorably resign. But that is their own honors or decisions to make, like I said.
Well, for this kind of cases, I mean, when you said you investigated anybody who was still in office, what measures, are there measures that have been put in place to ensure that, look, whoever is in government, governor, president, whatever, measures are there to ensure that these kind of cases don't just happen like this? Because there are questions as to what should we do about immunity clause? In your case, if you're not back on this seat, they try to push you out, so somehow you're back on the seat. So some people may not survive that. What recommendations, if I could follow suit as well, should be done to ensure that things like this never swept under the carpet, if people are eventually found guilty?
You see, it's unfortunate that we have a system that perhaps didn't work for the people. You see, in my own case, I was just heard of my suspension over the media, when I was ready to go to the office.
Oh, really?
I just get set to go to the office, then I had on my suspension, and they said somebody from the Accountant General office reported me to the assembly, and it's the same assembly that suspended me. But ironically, the assembly was supposed to be the place whereby we recommend under Section 18 sub 3 of the Council of Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission. It was the same assembly that was supposed to recommend for this. And then the assembly had the powers under our constitution to take appropriate measures that may even lead to, removal of somebody from office and to pass justice. And if you look at what happens, just like what I said, whereby in almost December last year, December 2022, the Attorney General, who is the chief law officer of the state, sued the EFCC on behalf of the government of Kano State, make reference to a personal case of the former governor, that this case is before a court, and now the EFCC shall be stopped from investigating it. And on the same court, in the same court that issued the order against the commission, that they were saying that we don't have the power to investigate. So what I'm saying is, if our institution will be working, And if we will stick to our out of office, whereby a public officer will subscribe to an out of office, whereby he will say that he will do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, or affection or ill will, that he will not allow his personal interest to influence his official conduct, official decision, then if we are to stick to that, then we are good to go. We have a robust system.
So the current governor too, should also be, on his toes, because you certainly can also be investigating him too.
That is what people are instigating. Most of people
instigating. I mean, shouldn't his mind be prepared towards that if you did it with the past governor?
Well, I believe it depends on the mindset, just like what my colleague said here. You see, depending on what we said, there was a time when I approached the governor personally at the head of anti-corruption, draw his attention on these inferences. And I made references, but it did not go down well with him. But the commission started working, unknown to me that some people are plotting against the commission and myself, because they initially started to kill the commission entirely.
All right. Well, to thank both of you for coming on. Dr. David Ogbole, Executive Director, Citizens Watch Africa, and Muhi Magaji, Chairman, Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission for Kano State. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, so business news on Sunrise Daily will be on the hour. We'll be back after that.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe, just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
Senior executives face local macroeconomic turbulence and global geopolitical upheavals. Don't worry, Texam UK got your back. A transformative journey with Texam Strategies for Sustainable Organizational Success Program, April 24 to 25, 2024, in Lagos will position you and your organization for these challenges. Our interactive sessions, games, assessment, and peer-to-peer learning are unique, with a great faculty led by John Peters, former chair, Association of MBAs and ex-prisoner of war, delivering actionable insights for you to navigate uncertainties and thrive. Pay 3,155,250 Naira by March 15th for your spot and enrich your leadership skills in resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth. Apply now via +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. It's a strategic opportunity to win. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
New beginnings are always colorful. When we celebrate the start of life's journey, we marry in colors. With our proudly Nigerian Dulux paints, now available in any color. Express your world however you want it. Visit a Dulux Color Center to get any color instantly.
Dulux. Let's color.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe, just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
And it's time to get a check on your money on Business Morning, the second trading day of this week. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you might be watching from. Let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now, starting with the global oil market. We see global oil prices rose today amid heightened tensions in the Middle East. We see Brent futures up by 0.5%, a big jump up to the muted starts that we got yesterday for the week. $90.56 a barrel for Brent. WTI crude, that's trading at $85.84 a barrel, also up 0.5%. We'll drill down on what's driving sentiment right there in the global oil market later on in the show. And back here, we see civil society groups led by Amnesty International are calling on the Nigerian government to block Shell PLC's proposed sale of its onshore oil business in Nigeria. The report published 40 groups, including Amnesty International, outlined several conditions that must be met before the sale can be approved. These conditions include an assessment of environmental pollution around the assets, a guarantee of funds for cleanup efforts, and consultation with local communities. The $1.3 billion deal, which was agreed upon in January this year with Nigeria-owned Renaissance Africa Energy, aims to fulfill Shell's long-term goal of exiting operations in the challenging Niger Delta. Let's get a quick check on the crypto market. Now, see, Bitcoin fell today as risk appetite remained frail in the face of higher for longer U.S. interest rates and continued geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. You see, Bitcoin dropped about 4.81% this morning at $63,245. And definitely, over the weekend, when we got that report about the Israel attack, we did see Bitcoin fall below that 60K level. It did bounce back, but now we're seeing weakness again. Ethereum, 3,000, holding that $3,000 level by hair's breadth, down about 4.69%. Cardano not left out, XRP also down 3.51%. So we're seeing a lot of pressure in the crypto market this morning. We'll drill down on what's driving sentiment also later. And back here in Nigeria, Nigeria's headline inflation maintained its upward trajectory, but this time soaring by 1.5% to 33.20%, up from 31.7% recorded in February this year. So it's another high, but a 28-year high for the headline inflation, 33.20%, versus 31.7% for February 2024. That's a month-on-month basis. And we see food inflation. That's a big one right there, 40%. More pressure on the pockets of Nigerian consumers at this time, even when we know the average Nigerian spends over 70-90% of their income on food. So that's what they're having to deal with at this time. Core inflation, 25.90%. Urban inflation, 35.18%. We see rural inflation, that's much lower than urban, 31.45%. We'll also talk about what's driving sentiment there. All right, let's get to the annual meetings now. Over 15,000 persons are expected at this year's annual meeting of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund taking place in Washington, D.C., United States. And we have our correspondents right there, and they're giving us blow-by-blow reports as they come right there. But let's get this overview now from our correspondent, Sarah Chimagu.
From discussing the global economic forecast to delving into Africa's sovereign debts and exploring its options and opportunities on Tuesday, followed by the release of the Global Financial Stability Report on Wednesday, and culminating in a forum chaired by the Central Bank Governor Olayemi Cardoso titled Reforming Monetary Policy in Nigeria. The week promises captivating conversations on leveraging key reforms for improved livelihoods across global economies. During this event, the Apex Bank governor will address a global audience, shedding light on how the new administration led by President Tinubu has embarked on an ambitious reform trajectory to reinstate macroeconomic stability and forge a pro-growth reform agenda. Initiatives such as fuel subsidy reforms and the consolidation of official foreign exchange windows have been pivotal within the initial months of this administration. While these policies have faced criticism in some circles, the central bank governor aims to spotlight the positive impact on the populace and strategies to tackle inherent challenges. This week-long event is poised to tackle concerns about adopting measures to eradicate extreme poverty by reducing the global population living in such conditions to 3% by 2030 and fostering shared prosperity. From the headquarters of the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C., Sarah Chimogu, Channels Television News.
All right, let's get to the first conversation now. It's another all-time high for inflation in Nigeria, even though the Naira continues the uptrend at this time. Let's drill down on the numbers now with Kalu Aja, author. Let's talk about your money. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Hi, Ladi. How you doing?
I'm great. But definitely, my pocket's not looking too good with the inflation numbers we're seeing at this time. What do you make of these inflation numbers?
Well, it's very, should say, shocking. 40% food inflation. That's what caught my eye. That just tells you that the trend from last year, 15% growth from 2023 till today. We haven't seen a break in food inflation. It's been going up and up and up for 12 months. I think it's about 15 months unbreaking increase in inflation. What that means is that inflation expectation is now baked into the psyche of Nigerians. We expect prices to go up. And because we expect prices to go up, we also increase our prices to replacement pricing. That then creates a vicious cycle for inflation in Nigeria, up and up and up, and nowhere inside is going to come down. So massive number right there. Headline is 33 or so, like you said, but that food inflation is a big problem. 40% is unheard of for food inflation.
And I guess one good thing, the Naira is strengthening, at this time. But how come it's not playing into, a softer number when it comes to inflation?
Yeah, because the inflation in Nigeria is not monetary. It's basically supply-driven. There's a fall in supply of food because of the issues we have around food production in Nigeria. So even if the Naira is 1-to-1, or even if we control inflation 100%, the supply of food is what's causing food prices to go up. And we can't fix that with monetary means or with exchange rate stability. We've got to increase the supply of food in Nigeria. That brings down inflation and this food inflation that we're seeing.
And definitely, we keep talking about the fiscal, side of things. We've seen the monetary policy, committee, raise rates by about 600 basis points in the first quarter. We've seen all the action there, also in the FX market. But what should we be seeing, from the fiscal side to actually help with this inflation?
So now it's now a national security issue, which means that we've got to get the security guys to go in there and allow the farmers to do their jobs. Farmers can't farm, so harvest yields are down. That's the very, very first thing there. You first of all have to take away the insecurity before you talk about fertilizers and yields of the crops. It's bandits, it's terrorism, it's internal strife. Fix that. Then medium to long term, we fix the yield, the fertilizers. Right now, no one can farm. So if they can't farm, you can't get produce out. If you can't get produce out, food stays very, very high. Look at the inflation numbers. It's driven by food, 17%. The next guy is about 5%, right? So it's driven by high food prices. Perhaps we start to have a serious discussion about importing food. If we can't make food in Nigeria, let's import food, 90-day window, tamper the prices down. You can't build any economy on 40% food inflation. It's just not going to happen. If rates are 1-to-1 and there's no Gary to buy, Gary is number one item listed that's gone up in price. If you can't buy Gary, but dollar is $1 to 1 naira, then what's the point of $1 to 1 naira?
Right, definitely. That's making it quite difficult at this time. But how hard does this new data make the job of the CBN Monetary Policy Committee? How hard does it make it, at this time? We've already done 600 basis points in the first quarter of 2024 alone.
I think what it shows is that we can't use monetary policy alone, right? That's what it shows. Because what will the CBN do? Will they keep on raising rates? Will they now say we're going to raise rates because inflation is going to keep on going higher? There's a point where they stop and say we're killing the economy too much. We can't raise rates to say 35% or 40%. That will be a death knell to the national economy. So he's going to do his part and say, I have done all I can do. Fiscal side, Nigerian army, Nigerian executives come in and help us. It's going to be a two-pack punch right there. He's done his monetary side. Executives are going to come in. We can't raise rates. Raising rates cannot produce food. And the problem in Nigeria food inflation is food supply. It's not a monetary expansion. It's food insufficiency caused by the lack of food output because you have bandits and terrorism in the food growing areas of Nigeria.
All right, let's drill down on some of the numbers a little deeper at this time. We see the inflation rate change at this time. We see headline inflation, that's about 3.02%. That's the amount of change we're seeing versus 3.12% in February. So the rate of change is lower, for March. Same for food inflation, 3.62% versus 3.79% rise in February. Then for Core inflation, that rose, in March, 2.54% versus 2.17%. So we're seeing, little drawdowns, with the rates of change. Is that from the MPC's actions we've seen from the CBN and the MPC in the first quarter? Is that why we're seeing that little drop there?
I doubt it. So it's increasing, but at a slower rate. But if you look at 15 months, like I said, if you look at 2023 till today, there's been no break in the rise in food prices. So it's going up, but it's going up slower, but it's going up. The problem, Ladi, is the expectation of inflation. If I believe that prices are going to go up tomorrow, then what do? I increase my prices today, i.e. replacement pricing. And when I increase my prices, you increase your prices, then inflation then gets baked into this vicious circle. That's the problem. So those rates you're talking about, those the people don't see it. What they know is that Gary price has gone up and their wages have stayed flat. This is the problem. Your wages are flat, but your costs are inflating. So it's a direct punch to you. You've got to decide if you're going to eat or buy gas. And once you have that discussion going on, you don't notice those 1% slowdown in change. What you see is that cost of food, which is 17% and 57% of your budget, has gone up, and your wages haven't gone up as well.
Right, and we also have the termination of energy subsidies for Band A customers. That's still there at this time. How will this impact, the inflation story going forward?
Yeah, so that's a two-pack punch, right? So the A guys pay more, but we hear Dangote is going to bring down diesel costs if he starts to send out his diesel. I think I saw the news article last week of diesel trucks going out. So we might see a drop in diesel cost, but then your energy costs go up. The net effect, we will have to watch and see what happens, right? But overall, what we're talking about is that there's been an increase in cost to the average Nigerian without a corresponding increase in revenues. So consumption is flat and productivity hasn't gone up, maybe via infrastructure development. That's the narrative, Ladi. Consumption is flat, costs are going up, and wages are where they are. That's a big, big, big problem for the largest economy in Africa.
And talking about wages, we're expecting a new number, for the minimum wage. The president's going to announce that, come May. But we also have, the TUC, the NLC, they've provided a number over 500,000 naira. That's about 600,000. How do you see that number, and what do you think is the realistic number that will not also, honestly, stoke inflation?
I'm a capitalist, so I don't like labor unions, but we have to increase wages. I don't even think 500,000 is enough for Nigerian workers. I don't think the problem is the cost. I think it's how we're going to pay for it, right? If you make it #1 million a month, that's an obscene number. But the problem is that the cost of production in Nigeria has to come down. A way to increase salaries is to reduce costs. If you bring down the cost of generating power, bring down the cost of sending your kids to school, that's also a salary increase. So across the board, the federal government is increasing prices. Look at Nigerian customs. They're using 14, 13, 12 as the exchange rate. Why can't they use 500 naira or 300 naira as the exchange rate? That becomes a salary cut, a salary hike, a cost cut to every Nigerian. That's one way you can increase salaries of workers. It doesn't have to be an increase in salaries, but the reduction in cost does the same thing, because we can't afford to pay #1 million naira. Even though I want to earn #1 million naira, we can't afford to pay it, but we have to jumpstart consumption in Nigeria. Without consumption, the economy is going nowhere. You can't consume with 30,000 naira a month as minimum wage. That's a non-starter.
All right. Always great to have your perspective. Thank you so much. We're still drilling down on this day to go forward. That was Kalu Aja, author. Let's talk about your money. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Ladi. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll take a break now. When we come back, head to the oil market and also talk about what's happening with food commodity prices. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.
The Dangote Petroleum Refinery is going to be the largest single-train petroleum refinery in the world. Dangote Industries have enormous confidence. Africa is opportunities here.
What makes this project different than others is for sure the size. This project is transformation for the country and for the continent, I would say.
The Dangote fertilizer plant will transform the agricultural sector. We go for the state-of-the-art technology. It will help to create employment and to reduce the massive demand on foreign imports. It's going to have a major impact on the lives of the Africans. It's a moment of great pride.
And still on the March inflation data, yeah, we did hear in food inflation, 40%, that's more pressure, on the average consumer. Let's drill down on commodity prices now. We have Dumebi Oluwole. She's a senior associate at Financial Derivatives Company, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you, Dumebi.
Thank you for having me. Good
morning.
morning.
And yes, I know you go to the markets, and definitely.
How do you know?
I'm sure you go to, well, maybe you don't. Maybe you send somebody to the market at this time. But we're seeing 40%, food inflation. That's a big problem right now.
It is. I mean, it's obvious that we're still having a lot of issues on the food production end, and also the spillover effects of the Naira depreciating so much early on in March. So that's still having a spillover effect on food prices. But more importantly, I actually want to draw your attention to the month-on-month numbers. So month-on-month, the headline inflation actually slowed. Not so drastically, but it did decline. And what that is beginning to show is that to some extent, domestic commodity prices are beginning to abate, not very quickly, but it's beginning to happen. And even food prices on a month-on-month basis, it also declined just marginally by about 0.1%. And what that is speaking to is that we're seeing a decline in commodity prices. Not very widespread, but if you notice, if you go to the market now, a derica of rice that probably was going for around 1,500 is probably going now for 1,400. In areas where it was going for as high as 1,300 or 1,200, it's now probably 1,100. And interestingly, we're seeing a mixed movement across food prices, where we're seeing food prices that are domestically produced actually being more expensive than commodities that were imported. So what this means is that the sharp decline in the Naira within March, from the middle of March towards the end of March, is beginning to somewhat have some impact on commodity prices in the market. And remember that we said that as of the beginning of the year, we've seen the exchange rate pass-through effect somewhat dominate, or significantly push commodity prices or drive the headline inflation. As of February, the exchange rate pass-through effect did explain about 50% of inflationary pressures in Nigeria today. So with the Naira declining, we should begin to see commodity prices actually decline a lot more. But the thing is, with the uniqueness of Nigeria's market, and not only Nigeria's market, in developing markets generally, there is a longer time frame for the transmission mechanism for when, policy changes happen and when they actually begin to translate to the outcomes that we want in the domestic market. And that period sometimes takes about 6 to 12 months. In some cases, it's even as long as 12 to 24 months. So while we do expect that the Naira's appreciation and to some extent the gradual slowdown in money supply growth to begin to translate to lower commodity prices, it will take time because there are a lot of other structural factors that are pushing commodity prices.
And also, we know energy, has a way of playing into that inflation story. We're seeing the geopolitics in the Middle East at this time. And that's moving the oil market. And definitely, we want to see oil prices quite stable. But with what's going on now, everyone's, looking at what, Israel, might do next, in response, in retaliation to the attack by Iran. And we've heard some numbers, for oil prices, if there's an escalation. So how much of this will play into the inflation story in the global space and right here in Nigeria?
I mean, we've seen this happen like early in 2022. We have very good references for how geopolitical tensions spill over from the global economy into Nigeria. So the story would be no different. But the thing is, we have to look at the scenarios that are at play here. If there is an escalation, we already know what's going to happen. Global commodity prices will increase because, obviously the issue with the Suez Canal, the issue with global global energy prices increasing, how that already would feed into the U.S.'s inflation outlook. Remember, U.S. inflation actually increased in March, and there are expectations, at least the Bank of America is expecting that inflation could actually nudge further in the U.S. to around 4.8%. And if that happens, what this means is it completely changes the global monetary policy environment. And it means that interest rates are going to remain higher for longer. And if that is the case, the U.S. dollar will continue to strengthen. What that means is higher importation costs for Nigeria, especially when, even though the Naira is appreciating, if you're still going to have to spend a lot more in dollar terms, just because the dollar is strengthening, that definitely has some impact. The other thing to also consider is, the importation of refined petroleum products. So while Dangote Refinery is already, bringing out some diesel, we do expect that to take some time before it, completely reduces commodity diesel price or energy prices in Nigeria, to be fair. And aside from that, the key factor in terms of the supply side mechanism for commodity prices in Nigeria today, right now, is power. Right, so and with electricity prices significantly increasing, we know about
the almighty band A.
Yes, and that almost to an extent, captures companies that are also producing. So, because they also, use a lot of power. Most of the companies are situated in areas where they're able to experience that kind of long power supply. And even still, they still, they still purchase diesel. They run on diesel, So essentially, we know how an escalation will affect the domestic commodities markets, and it's not going to be a sweet experience, because commodity prices that was expecting would continue declining will now start increasing, especially imported commodities. But the other thing to also consider is, what if it just doesn't escalate? Or what if it does have what if it has a muted impact on the global economy? All prices don't skyrocket; they remain where they are, and there are expectations that this is going to happen. I've seen an analysis where there's some analysis that are saying that we don't expect the war to escalate, even though social media is saying it's completely different. We've seen World War III trending. But I mean, aside all of that frenzy going on, there are expectations on the economic side of things where we don't expect it to escalate. And if it doesn't escalate, it benefits everybody: the US, the UK, EU, China, Israel, in fact, Iran. It does benefit everybody, but most importantly, developing and emerging markets that are still trying to come out of the funk of the global monetary policy environment, the COVID-19 pandemic. They were seeing a lot of debt restructuring programs happen. It will be more beneficial for them. So we keep our fingers crossed to expect that. Hopefully the latter happens. It doesn't escalate. Yeah.
And I guess the million-dollar question at this point is, how much can the average Nigerian consumer, take at this time, or are we just used to higher prices at this point?
No, I mean, the problem, again, with how things work in a developing economy like Nigeria is that the prices are really sticky. It does take time for, when you're seeing the Naira appreciate, but you go to the market, they're still telling you a bag of rice is as high as 80,000 Naira.
Because it's really quick, taking the prices up.
Taking prices down really, really slow. And one thing that we need to understand about economies like Nigeria is that there are a lot of other multiple factors feeding into commodity prices, especially food items. So, and again, remember I told you about the lag effect, right? So it will take time for all of these things that we're seeing to translate into lower commodity price for a longer period of time, that people can now say, oh, my pockets are really eased. I'm not spending as much as I used to spend before. And unfortunately, this is not something that would happen immediately. To be very honest, we're looking at a period of at least 12 months where we'll see commodity price significantly decline. Remember, the CBN's inflation target for 2024 is 21.4%. That is still high. That's still, because clearly what that means that we're looking at food inflation of above 20%. So meaning that compared to where you were in 2022 or even 2023, you will still be spending a lot more than what you were spending before, especially on food items. But of course, people would appreciate prices to decline. So the expectation really is that prices would fall, but it will decline at a very slow pace because of all the other factors. It reminds me of a joke
I saw one time. You're sitting at home. It's better to just stay home, because if you're just going out to get fresh air, 50K has left you about 100,000.
Exactly.
Just
and
like
it's really something, especially when you consider the consumption basket of Nigerians. If you remember the 2019 consumer expenditure report by the NBS, where it did break down how much people spend, and you realize that food outside of home actually takes a lot more from people's pockets than food from going to the market to buy food and then cook in the house. So imagine people that probably would enjoy fine dining or typically would like to order food and they imagine just one
restaurant inflation. That would be incredible.
It's extremely high. It's extremely high. So those are things that we do expect with food inflation. It will decline, but it will happen at a very slow pace.
All right. I guess we'll look forward to what the MPC committee, what they do next with this data. Thank you so much, Abdulmabi Oluwole, Senior Associate at Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you have it. Those are the numbers, and we'll take a very, very quick break. Then we'll come back. We'll just get a touch on some of the markets. That's the moment to stay with us.
$34 million hectares of arable land. Over 200 million people. One nation. Home to Africa's fertilizer company. Dangote Fertilizer. Pure urea fertilizer. With one single-minded passion to feed Nigeria. Every bag is a potential, an aspiration to turn this green nation into the biggest food basket of Africa. Dangote Fertilizer.
All right, let's get a quick check on the market now. The close for yesterday, 0.52% down. We see the equity cap sitting at 56.57 trillion. So we got that inflation data. It'll be interesting to see how investors react to that number in the market today. The markets are open right now. We'll get a check about 1 p.m. For Business Incorporated, and we'll see what's happening in the markets. I'll hand things over now to the Sunrise Daily team.
The 12-year-old student of Dowen College, Sylvester Oromoni Jr., died in November 2021 under controversial circumstances. The news of the death subsequently went viral following a social media post by a family member who alleged that some senior students of the college beat up Oromoni Jr. in his hostel because he refused to join a cult. But the school denied the claim, stating that the boy complained of leg pains following an injury sustained while playing football. The family subsequently demanded a coroner's inquest into the cause of death, and about 6 weeks after the boy died, the coroner started sitting. The inquest dragged from January 15, 2022, and the coroner has now presented his findings on Monday, April 15, 2024. During the inquest, the coroner, Magistrate Michael Kadiri, listened to the testimonies of about 32 witnesses. They included the parents of the late student, the management of Dowen College, as well as some teachers, members of staff, and the senior students alleged to have bullied the late student. Others who testified were police officers who investigated the incident, as well as medical doctors and pathologists. The coroner spent over 6 hours reviewing the facts gathered and presented his findings to indicate that the late Oromoni Jr. died a natural but avoidable death. The coroner, who broke down in tears several times while reading his findings, said the evidence gathered showed that the late Oromoni Jr. suffered avoidable excruciating pains due to parental and medical negligence, which led to his needless death. Among the evidence relied on were the findings of 2 autopsies conducted on the late student in Warri, Delta State, and another in Lagos. The autopsies revealed the cause of death to include septicemia, which demanded urgent medical care, but which was not given timeously. The coroner exonerated Dowen College and the 5 senior students accused of bullying the late Oromoni Jr. and administering a poisonous substance on him.
I must tell you, as a father, the verdict does not represent the true proceeding of the court. I came to court every day. I don't miss any day.
It's unfortunate that innocent young boys almost had their lives irreversibly destroyed because of lies. Lies that have been shown for what they are today.
In his recommendations, the coroner advised parents not to take their children's health with levity. He called for better synergy between the police and medical teams in matters of this nature. He also called for proper psychological evaluation for the 5 students suspected to have bullied the late student. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
Mr. Femi Fadana, senior advocate of Nigeria and the human rights lawyer, has faulted the coroner judgment on Sylvester Oromoni Jr., which exonerated Dowen College and blamed his death on negligence of the family. Now, he put up a statement earlier. He says, it's curious that the coroner ignored the evidence of the government pathologist that the black substance found in Sylvester Oromoni's stomach was not subjected to toxicological examination. The allegation was that the student was forced to drink a poisonous substance. Now, according to him, the doctor who testified stated that the deceased died of sepsis and that the sepsis could have been caused by excessive massaging of the leg of the deceased. The coroner conveniently overlooked the fact that the school doctor and the nurses massaged the leg of the deceased for 2 days before inviting his parents to take him home. He also faulted the coroner for exonerating Dowen College, explaining that the coroner discountenanced the evidence of a student that he saw Sylvester beaten up and subjected to torture by a group of senior students. So we've got 2 gentlemen joining us to weigh in on this matter. Olalo Akonde is here with us in the studio. He's a former presidential aide, and then we'll also have the father of the late Sylvester Oromoni Jr., who will join us virtually on this matter. So we'll just set that up and get him up. Olalu, good morning. Thank you for coming on today on this. Well, this, rightly so, generating a lot of concern and emotion in terms of how it's been handled across board by all parties. So for you, having looked at this recent development, what strikes you about it?
Well, thank you. I think it's the duration of the inquest itself is the first thing that I found a little bit curious, and I tried to do some quick check to see how long should this kind of inquest, take. I mean, this took about 2 years. Mm-hmm. From the basic norm of justice delayed is justice denied, this is not looking good at all. If it had to take us as a nation, 2 years to find out what happened for a few days in the school, I think that's an indictment of the system itself. Now, but there are other issues, such as the ones that have been raised by Mr. Femi Falana. I just hope that the parents will be able to find some reasonable closure, because it's quite a very heart-rending situation.
It is indeed, especially when the family is now being blamed, because it does appear that the conclusion of the coroner's inquest is laying the blame squarely at the foot of the parents.
Yeah, which is the other thing I find curious, because a coroner's inquest, like generally all inquests, are supposed to be fact-finding. You are not supposed to apportion blame. So to have to come down heavily on the parents, I don't know what the details or what the facts are. But that was also something that was quite curious.
Yeah. My colleague, our colleague, Shoyele, who covered the inquest, did say that the judge was the coroner in this instance, was quite emotional while delivering the judgment, that the judge was actually pausing at point to cry, which is highly unusual. Well, in this kind of matter, as Chairman highlighted, is a very emotional matter.
Right.
And I know that even when this, issue came to the fore, for a number of people, especially those who went to boarding school, a number of scenarios immediately began to play in their heads. We haven't seen the full detail of, the coroner's inquest. We do not know but if the summary is saying that this is parental and medical negligence, you have to ask, is it that the school had no role whatsoever to play in this?
Yeah, which is the point that Mr. Falano has helped us to fill the gap, that there is the result, a toxicology test that was not done on a particular black substance, and also the fact that the staff of the school possibly massaged, that portion of the body, and that
for 2 days.
Yeah, and that had the potential of causing what happened. But again, it's actually the family that one really, is very worried about, to have to sit down there for 2 years, and then this is the conclusion of the whole thing, and,
and part of it is that, even if a layman or somebody who sees it for the first time just listens to that report, there are basic things they'll ask you. So how is it that parents will be just deliberately, be careless with their word after being concerned, raising such huge concern, after all the furore, the role the school played, the role the students played? So many just wonder, there are certain gaps in this. And if a coroner's inquest, if there are gaps in it, it certainly casts a lot of shadows on the credibility of that report.
Yeah, so one doesn't know the procedure that should follow next, So what else can the family do? Now the parents have been indicted publicly, which, like I said, was curious. You don't know why that had to be said, publicly, But I guess, we don't know the technicalities. The question is, so what is going to happen next if the parents still think that there are still issues that are left undealt with? Mr. Falano has pointed to one or two. What is the next? It would be good to find out what is next. And to the other point, just to look at the other side, I think the lawyers of the Dowen College also talked about those 5 students who seem to have been accused. I think we should also, say something about the fact that if indeed those guys were not involved, then, yeah, of course, they too have paid quite a lot of
but should the coroner have said something about that? Because did that actually happen? If it happened, did he play a role? What role did they play? So all of those issues that are out there in the public, shouldn't they have spoken to all of those cases so we know that a thorough job was done?
Yeah, well, so I understand that it took over an hour for the finding to be read. So that suggests that maybe it was a thorough job. But, like Marco said, we haven't seen all those details. We are only basing our own observations on what.
No, but there are clear ones that Mr. Falano has pointed out.
Oh yes,
and those clear ones need answers.
Yeah, certainly. So why wasn't there a toxicology test just to remove the shadow of
That suggests there are so many unfinished but the other aspect of this is when people sit down and just listen to all of it, they ask questions. Laymen will, some will ask him, see why people take laws into their hands if they feel that they can't get justice in a particular way, and even in this case where somebody has died. So it has far more implications for society. Because people are watching this, they feel, so if I can't get justice in this kind of case where my child has died or somebody's child died and they're watching, they're looking, it raises more questions that what society leaves unanswered.
Well, to the extent that the work of the coroner, the inquest, the work of the coroner's inquest is meant to give us facts. It will be useful for us to look at what it is that the coroner found out and look at it very closely. Because there are different sides to the issue. There's the side of Bowen College, there's the side of those 5 boys. And our hearts must go out to them indeed if they didn't have any
role
to play as we have been made to believe. You know, I mean, like Gloria said. So I think it's important for us to look at that report, the finding more closely to be able to make certain conclusions. But I think another thing, you know, is that the fact that the coroner said that there wasn't a timeous medical service. I think that's another big deal.
That's on the part of the school, isn't it? Or is it the parents?
But whatever
Once
it is the fact that we don't have a system where people can get immediate medical attention.
Wow. Which is a very big thing. And as you rightly highlighted, Mr. Akonde, while we'll still wait for Mr. Romani Sr. to join us online, I'm just a little curious, really. Shouldn't there be a little more detail into the role that these 5 boys were alleged to have played? I mean, what exactly did the coroner find? Did they find that the testimony of the witness who allegedly saw, you know, him being manhandled or being tortured, is it that it was false? Is it that it never took place? Wouldn't that be very important to establish in the final assessment of the report?
Without a doubt. And I think that's the point that the lawyer to, I think, Bowen College was saying in the report, to say that, you know, those things are lies. That's the point it's made. And that's why I'm saying that it's important for us to really look at the fact found by the coroner.
All right, so we have been able to establish audio connection with Mr. Sylvester Romani Jr., so the visuals are a little not too clear, but we can hear him, though, so let's give it a shot. Good morning, Mr. Romani Sr. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, so we're just talking about this case, and we did hear some parts of what you were saying in that report. So just go ahead and talk to us now about the concerns you have, because, I mean, that couldn't have been just a short report, about the concerns you have on that coroner's case.
Yeah, thank you very much. My son died 30th of November 2021. We've been in court for 2 years plus. But the judgment given yesterday does not represent the true evidence given in court. I went to court almost every day, in fact, every day. I don't miss any day. But Nigerians can also testify that at a point, coroner stopped for almost 6 months. Almost 6 months. Before eventually I was making some press briefing, eventually he called the case. But when he gave the judgment yesterday, my brother, I've not seen where, I remember when they were showing the video of my son in court, he made a statement that there's no sentiment, there's no emotion in law. Those were his statements, when everybody was crying in court. But to everybody's surprise, yesterday, the coroner, while delivering the judgment, cried 7 times. The 5th time, he went to his mouth, came out with tissue, then he burst into cries. And the whole judgment was just one-sided. He was talking about the evidence of the doctors and all the rest.
Okay, well, I think you lost him for a moment, so we're trying to get that back up. So, well, clearly you can see that he's distraught about all of that, not exactly satisfied or happy with how that judgment has turned out. And so he'll go ahead and talk to us a little further on that matter about his son's death, Sylvester Romani Jr., former student of Dowen College. And part of the questions we were also asking here of Lalu as well was, I mean, just as Michael did highlight, the role that the students played. And that raises questions as to, I went to a boarding school, and I could relate with what transpired. Of course, I was also bullied in school. It happens in school.
You're not the bullier. Oh, you're not the bully, as they say.
But when you're a senior student, chances are that you just might fall prey to one or two punishments of junior students. But when it goes overboard, you know, there has to be a line. So questions as to, what does the school do to ensure that this kind of things don't happen again? Do they put CCTV, and where? Because if it has to be your word against his to say, no, you participated and these are the images. So At what point do they do that to ensure they don't violate the privacy of students?
Yeah, well, so that will have to be something that the state government, that regulates private education in Lagos State will have to really look at if the facts, in the case clearly shows that there is a need for that kind of review. Because when it comes to matters of security, then you can trump some privacy rules. It's just then a question of how do you disseminate, how do you release the information when you need it? What are the guidelines, for you to be able to release it? So it's important to use this case to see what has to be done to secure, the safety of children, especially in boarding school. It's an important point.
Okay, let's see if I have Mr. Sylvester Romani back. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead. We lost you while you were making your point about
the coroner crying.
And the coroner crying, yes.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it looks like...
about the judgment?
Yes.
The judgment of the witnesses. Yes. Then, while he was delivering the judgment, the judge, the magistrate cried 5th time. He went to his nurse about cleaning his face, came back again with tissue paper and started crying. So the question I'm asking is that this is somebody that was at the initial stage that there's no sentiment, there's no emotion when people were crying, seeing his videos in the courts. He was the one crying while delivering his own judgment. 7 good times. That is 1. Then 2, the judgment, I am not a lawyer, but I go to court every day, does not represent the proceedings recorded, all the evidence taken from all the witnesses.
What is missing, sir?
Hello?
What is missing, sir?
A lot is missing. A lot. Afolabi, a student in that school, came to the court to testify that he saw them beating him. He went upstairs because he had an injury in his hand. He had a shout. He went to the room. The door was locked. The window blind was up. And he peeped and he saw 5 of them. Kasamu was holding bells, while the other ones was using leg. The boy was shouting, defending his faith. Those ones were not mentioned. It was not mentioned. Then another student, Tarela Wilson, came from Abuja to testify that my son confided in him, that they told him if he tells anybody, they would kill him. There's nobody to tell him, but he would tell only him that they gave him a substance to drink. It was terrible, and it was dangerous and terrible. That the substance was very dangerous and terrible. Those were his words in court. Then let me ask, I sent this boy to Lagos State. I don't stay in Lagos. The principal of that school is the guardian of that board. The boy was sick in that school for 3 to 4 days. They said they had a doctor. They did not take care of him. There was no referral note given to us. So how do you just blame worry doctor? Well, you have already told us that the boy sustained injury while playing football. All the x-rays were concentrated on that leg. But at the end, the boy now opened up. I did not play football. I was beaten up. He confessed those 3, Kasamu, Michael, Benjamin Favor, and Aslem Tebile, and 2 others, 5 of them. Then, the Benjamin Favor, who asked him to describe his own elder sister's private part, was not mentioned in court. There was no query. Somebody, a student, asked my son to describe his own elder sister's private part. The magistrate did not mention any of such. Instead, he started crying, taking one side, and he started crying. Then at the end, he said all judges, all doctors agree that it's one thing or the other. I must tell you that that judgment is not his own judgment. That was why he was crying. He knows, and God knows.
Mr. Romani, it is a very, very sad and very emotional matter, and this must really, really hurt must really, really hurt you as a father, being called to take your son. I still recall the conversation we had with you and the journey which you described, going to Lagos, picking up your son, and then going to Asaba. I know that that's certainly not the end that you thought was going to happen. But when you look back, and there's no easy way to ask this question, do you think that, there are certain things that you could have done better as a father? I know that, when students are bullied, and I know this from personal experience, that they rarely open up to their parents, for fear of going back to that school and still being beaten up by the same people. I'm just wondering, do you think that there are things that you could have done better? Maybe you could have suspected. I don't know if you ever sit and you wonder if there was anything you could have done differently as a parent, seeing right now that they're blaming parents for the death of Sylvester.
Yeah, I cannot hear you clearly, but if I can understand little of it, I can do something better if I was given the true information, what happened to the boy. Because the day I went with the boy to Warri, there was no flight. So I take through road to Warri, and I passed through Benin. I can as well branch University of Benin Teaching Hospital, then drop there with my son. But because we were already given that information that he played football, that he sustained an injury, that was the impression given to us. The school had a doctor, according to them. The doctor came, and that she attended to this boy. Did she give us any referral note? She said they asked the nurse to massage the boy. Herself to massage the boy, but the man said did not mention any of such massages. Instead, he said the family was at home. What else will I do? When I get to Warri, I called the doctor. I was going to the clinic. He said there was no vacant bed, and the place is stone through. They will come and attend to the boy. He came almost immediately and took some. And he dropped nurse there and started attending to the boy. It was on the 29th. He finished attending to the boy on the 28th. Started on the 26th. Then 29th was when we went for the X-ray and all the rest, because the body was still paining, it was still shouting. It was in the evening of 29th that we got the result that he had an enlarged liver. So he said, okay, we'll take him to Akeredolu hospital the next morning. The next morning he died.
All right, well, Mr. Romani, we do thank you for talking to us this morning. We know it's a tough time for yourself and family, so it's
It is indeed. Just quickly, I just want to ask: what do you plan to do next? When you're not satisfied, you certainly are not satisfied with this ruling. Do you intend to take it up? Do you intend to go to a higher court? What precisely do you want to do?
Of course. We're waiting to get the judgment from the coroner inquest. He said, now, let me say one thing. Inside the court, I stood up and I told him I want to appreciate him. He allowed me. And I told him, thank you for using 7 hours to judge this case. You really tried. Also, thank you for crying because of my son. But I must tell you that the judgment you gave does not represent the true evidence given in this court. He now said that is his own opinion. Any other judge, anybody can have his own opinion. We are going to get the opinion of another person.
All right, Mr. Romani, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Well, part of what he said is that he says the judgment that the man was crying because that is not his judgment. Yeah. But, I mean, there are just so many questions and so many perspectives to this matter. And people can make up their minds from what they've seen, because he never missed any court session for 2 years, according to him. So he said he knows that that judgment, according to him, was not that gentleman's judgment. But it's unfortunate, but he says he will take it upstairs.
I think that
and see what happens.
Yeah, I think he should, because clearly the least that we all hold Mr. Romani is a decent closure. But clearly, that has not happened.
What do you also say to parents who have children in boarding houses and, maybe they come home with one sort of pain or the other? Would you say that they should also err on the side of caution and suspect something foul? Because I mean, as I did highlight, a lot of children, when they're bullied in school, the fear of going back to school to face those same bullies is a big problem, which usually keeps them silent. How do you think that parents can break that code of silence?
I think what has to happen, two things. The code of silence, parents should try to be closer to their children, basically, as much as possible, you know. But I think the greater point is that we must, the government must have more stringent regulation of boarding education in this country. Yeah, it must be much more, because he is right. The principal of the school is the guardian of that boy in that place. Whatever happens in that school is the responsibility. I'm surprised that the corona has just given them, well, we don't know what the facts are.
It's not just surprising, it's also because in boarding schools, you have housemasters, you have several layers of care. So what happened to all of those in this kind of school? So that's why many people look at this and feel there's several unanswered questions. Many people went to boarding schools and they know what plays out. So, but
this case is not over, you know, and we hold it as a people to the Rotimi family to give them a decent closure. That has not happened.
All right, so unfortunately, we couldn't talk about the Ganduje matter to see what's going on there politically, but it is incredibly important for us to get it right at every level. So even if they fear people who can, kill the flesh, what about who can deal with your soul at the end of the day? So don't give too much respect to such people, but they won't be there when you have to answer for your soul and what you do with what you've been given. Well, that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. Lalo, thank you for coming as always.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Thank you so much. I'm Maukwe Ogun Yusuf.